Burnett here. Today's Taste Life Nutrition Radio and podcast streaming live. Oh, I forgot to start my other videos. Let's do that real quick. All right. I'm streaming live on KUHSdenver.com, where we're going to have some fun, which it's hard to say that autoimmunity is fun, but when we can have some really good conversations around it that can really benefit people, to me that's fun. So it's good. It's, good conversation is fun, right? Even if it's a hard topic. So today we have Annie Spengler, who is, you are a nutrition therapist master, or I'm a master nutrition therapist, and I think it's the same thing. They just changed the title, yes, or the diploma.
Yes.
So Annie has been through her own journey, and she's now out in the world helping others with their journeys, which is really important for, it's why we go through the hard stuff, right? Is so we can help others. I truly believe that that's the case. It helps us grow, builds character, all of the things that that are good, the good things that come from the hard things, right? So, but of course, as always, we start the show with gratitude. Gratitude can change the world. I'm working really hard to, I do my gratitude, especially in the morning or when I'm meditating, but I'm trying to kind of do it throughout the day also. We have this focus, but sometimes when we're in the thick of it, in the middle of the day, going through stuff and things get crazy, being still and just taking a breath and finding what you're grateful for, I think is such a game changer in our mental focus, our mental capacity, our outlook, our mindset, all of these things. So, anyway, just a thought that I had. So what are you grateful for today?
Yes, well, I first of all just have to say that I love that you talk about this topic all the time, because I am in complete agreement with you that it can make such a huge impact on so many areas of our life, and it can be such a small thing that we do every day. It can, like you said, it can be hard at times when you're in the thick of it, but it can make such a change, and it can be this small thing that you just add in that, wow, oh my gosh, so much can come from it. Mm-hmm. But with that, I am just grateful for the experiences that I've had with my health, and kind of like you just mentioned, the fact that I now get to help others and guide others with what they are going through on their health journeys, and the knowledge that I have gained from my own experience. And also just that I get to be here today with you talking about this, and hopefully it will provide others who are in the thick of their autoimmune journey a little ray of light.
It can be such a hard place to be, and I'm sorry, I'm about to move on without my own gratitude. I do that because I'm like, what you're saying is so good and so meaty, and there's so much to it. But so what am I grateful for today? I think that so it's funny that I'm grateful for this, but today it's usually, this is odd for Colorado. Are you still in Colorado?
I'm actually in Hawaii.
That's right. We talked about that. That's right. Hawaii. I mean, that's amazing. But August, so being from Texas, we usually have 100-degree weather from June through September, right? So here in Colorado, usually in August, things are starting to cool off. Today's going to be 100 degrees. It's like,
oh my gosh.
What is that about? So I will never complain about the heat, although 100 degrees is a little bit warm for me. I love it, and I think that my hope is, and I will be super grateful for it, is if that means we're going to have a warm winter.
That would be nice.
I would love to have a nice warm winter. But anyway, we're still Colorado. We get a lot of cold weather, but it's still beautiful. The sun's out. The sky is clear. The simple things are the things that I am mostly grateful for. It's I talk a lot about when I get to meditate outside and the sun on my skin, and how amazing it feels and how important it is for people with autoimmune disease. Yes. But for me, I feel it, and I truly feel like it's like God's hugs, right? And it's one of my very favorite things When it's 100 degrees, I last about 5 minutes, but at least I'm out in it.
Yes.
So, anyway, let's do this. Let's jump into, I think I want to talk a little bit about how you got here, but one of the things that you said a few minutes ago, which is always so true, but when you were diagnosed or even up to the diagnosis and struggling, because I imagine how bad you were struggling, we work with people who are struggling with this and you can just relate and empathize, right? And you can feel their pain. Now, I've not had an autoimmune condition, but I've had my other stuff, right? And so when you're going through it and you're in the thick of it, to imagine where you are now is a pretty beautiful thing, right? Or, well, it's difficult at that time, but right now you're like, holy smokes, I did it. But you still have to maintain it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh my gosh. And I think there is I remember there were times because I've been dealing with, well, my psoriasis I've been dealing with for 21 years. The other two conditions I've been dealing with for 14 years. So, very long time. It's been a very long journey to get to where I am right now. And I remember there were moments where you just feel like it's never going to end and you're never going to get out of it. You feel like your body is failing you, which is a very hard and scary thought to have. And so it's so beautiful, the transformation that my body has been able to go through. And I have always fully believed that our bodies are capable of the most incredible things. And I feel like I've truly experienced that firsthand with this.
I think it's so important which is hard to say, right? Especially, if so, I'm the practitioner, you're the practitioner, and you're talking to someone who's dealing with who's in the thick of the struggle. But what I always want to try to help people is with a mindset shift, because I fully believe, as you do as well, the body's ultimate goal is to keep us alive, and it's doing that with with what it has available to it, right? So if it's got all of these things going on, it's nutrient deficient, if there's infection, all of these things that can happen, the body's doing what it knows to do. And so what my prayer is for people who are in the thick of the struggle, whatever the struggle is to keep that in mind, that our body is never ever against us. We talk about autoimmune disease like the body's attacking us. I think it's a terrible way of looking at autoimmune disease and understanding our body, because then we just think that we're fighting and fighting and fighting instead of trying to work with it, because that's what it's trying to do for us, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I agree. The whole your body is attacking itself, and that's what we're told when we're diagnosed with autoimmune conditions is, oh, your body is attacking the thyroid, oh, your body is attacking the adrenal glands, whatever part of the body that is being impacted, we're told our body is attacking it. And it kind of gives this undertone of just like the struggle that it's going to be. It kind of
it just makes it worse.
Like this is going to be a fight.
Yeah.
And it really shouldn't. I agree. I think we need to kind of shift the perspective and shift the lens that we're viewing it through, and really see how we can understand the way that our body is communicating to us through these symptoms that we're experiencing, and take that as, oh, okay, our body is just truly trying to tell us what it needs, so let's learn how to listen to it.
Yeah, totally agree. So let's go back and kind of start from the beginning, or wherever it is you want to start, because your story, I know, will resonate with so many people. We have autoimmune disease that is just, the trajectory is just ridiculous. And I think that it's important for us to understand the why behind that. There's so many factors that are involved in this, but when we hear other people's stories, I think those stories can obviously give a colorful picture to the situation, but people can relate, right?
Yeah. So I have 3 autoimmune conditions, like you mentioned. I have psoriasis, Hashimoto's, and Addison's disease. and I was diagnosed with psoriasis when I was 13. So quite young. And it was funny because at the time, the doctors actually didn't even tell me that it was an autoimmune condition.
I think
I
a lot of
actually
people
didn't,
don't realize that. Yeah.
yes,
Uh-huh.
I didn't find out it was an autoimmune condition until probably 8 years later, at least.
Yeah.
So I really just thought what I was dealing with was a dermatology issue,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just a skin issue. And that's who you go to when you have skin issues, even if it's autoimmune, is you're seeing a dermatologist. What I know now is that it is, in fact, an autoimmune
Mm-hmm.
condition. And what's happening with psoriasis is the immune system is targeting your skin cells. This causes them to grow at a much more rapid pace than they normally should. So, normally it takes a couple of months with psoriasis, it takes a couple of days. And this leads to these scaly, inflamed plaques on your skin. Have it on my scalp, and it was so itchy. Just the
Mm.
amount of itchiness that you experience with this autoimmune condition is out of this world. My sleep was disrupted because I was waking up just scratching my head. Um, so that was sort of the first thing that happened. And interestingly enough, there were two other shifts and things happening in my body right around this time. So I was also navigating these really horrible stomach pains. I felt like someone was stabbing me in the stomach, and nobody could figure out what was going on. I went to so many doctors, I had so many tests, and I had no answers.
So you had
um,
conventional testing, conventional doctors. Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I remember saying to my mom, I think this is related to stress. Like, I couldn't pinpoint anything else, but there was something in me that was just like, I think this is a stress response that I'm
Mm-hmm.
having. But needless to say, I kind of just continued to deal with both of those things. The third thing that was kind of going on in my body is I was actually dealing with a pretty deep sadness that I couldn't place. This one was super confusing to me because I had and have the most incredible family. You know, I was surrounded by so much love and so much support. And so to be walking through a really deep depression that just did not make sense was really hard and confusing. And I felt a lot of almost shame and embarrassment
Mm-hmm.
around it because I felt like I shouldn't be feeling this way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why is this happening? So that was sort of the first iteration of the shifts that happened within my body. Um, with the psoriasis, you know, I was given the typical, here's your topical steroid cream. It burned like nobody's business. I was in tears when I would use it.
Well, and you're
And
putting it in your hair.
yes, and on raw patches of skin.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
all
I
of that.
kind
You're
of
like,
like to say,
uh-uh.
I know. I know. It was not fun. And so I kind of just was like, I don't think I need to use this. This is not advice to anybody. Please do not go off your medication without talking to your doctor first. Um, but that was a choice that I
But
made.
also listen to your instincts.
Yes.
I think it's very
Yes.
important to listen to your what you know to be true about you.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think that I really did have this thought of like, there is no way this is doing something good for my body if it is hurting this much and it's not improving. Maybe it would have been a different situation if I had seen improvement, but I wasn't. So yeah, I did. I did listen to my gut instinct on it, and I just said, I'll just deal with the itchiness and the embarrassment of looking like I have really bad dandruff.
Oh.
But as A, I didn't know I was dealing with an autoimmune condition. B, I also didn't know that once you have one autoimmune condition, you are more susceptible to developing other autoimmune conditions. So while I just thought, okay, I'm just dealing with a skin issue that is annoying and embarrassing, I really didn't realize that by not, taking the next step to really take care of myself, I was potentially setting myself up for these other manifestations to happen within my body.
I think that that's a really, there are two really important points in there. And one of those is, when it comes to any autoimmune condition, what often happens in conventional medicine is we go to that organ, right? We bypass the immune system. We just go to that organ. So Hashimoto's, we're going to go to the thyroid and we're going to treat the thyroid or address the thyroid. Why would we not go to the immune system? Right? It's this. Right. You're like, what? With Addison's, we're just going to go to the adrenals and that's it. And then you have multiple autoimmune conditions, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to look at these three things and not look at your immune system. That's the, sort of the crux of all of it. And I have so many things to say here, so I'll stop there. But there is another point that I had that you said that it just lost me because my mind just goes in all of these directions of things that I want to say. But it's so important. Yep. So if you're struggling with an autoimmune condition, you got to address the immune system. And what I wanted to say, which is what I think that we need to get into, is you got to know why. We talk about this in our world of functional medicine, functional nutrition, whatever you want to call it, integrative approach, there's so many, holistic, right? But we got to know the why behind it. And that is so key. Always, always ask why.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point of everything is looked at in isolation, like you said, when it comes to autoimmune conditions. And even looking back on that time in my life when I was diagnosed with psoriasis, and I had those other things going on that were not autoimmune conditions, but I can see through the lens of nutritional therapy how they're all connected. We know that the gut is connected to skin health. We know that the gut is connected to the autoimmune development process and triggers that can happen there. We also know that our gut is connected to mood and mental health. There's an entire pathway called the gut-brain axis where they communicate with each other. And so it's funny and actually really cool to look at that time in my life and be like, like I get it. Like although I don't have the I don't have the exact answer for why the stomach pain was happening. I have my thoughts, my theories.
Yep.
But it makes sense, like the intertwined connection between them. So it's you have to look at the whole body.
You do.
Just need to.
Yeah, and one of the other point I wanted to make that I remember now, but I do think it's important, especially for women, is so often we see this cycle of autoimmune disease because of our hormonal fluctuations, right? We have even in a normal hormone situation, we have these massive fluctuations. So we think of pregnancy, and we think of perimenopause and menopause, and these massive fluctuations really can perpetuate autoimmune disease. And so we want to be aware of that. And so that my hope is for all women is that we pay attention to our hormones and the symptoms that we get during our cycles, because symptoms are not normal, right? And so if we have these fluctuations or these intense fluctuations, again, all being connected, it can perpetuate the other things that we have going on and just makes things harder. So wanted to make sure that we hit on that, because I think it's one of those things that's not talked about enough.
Yes. Well, and also just to quickly piggyback off of that, when you look at the population who is impacted the most by autoimmune conditions, it is women. Mostly women are the ones that are getting diagnosed with autoimmune conditions. Absolutely.
Totally agree. So let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about, let's just go off of what you started and talk about gut health.
Yes. So, man, gut health. You have to focus on the gut if you are dealing with an autoimmune condition, regardless of if you are having outright gut symptoms, right? You might think, I don't have gas or bloating or diarrhea or constipation. Like, I don't need to worry about that. No, we actually absolutely do. And there are a few reasons why, right? One that I'll touch on briefly is, most people listening have probably heard of leaky gut. If you haven't, this is intestinal permeability. What's happening here, so Dr. Alessio Fasano, who was a gastroenterologist, he
so good
found, I know it's so good, he found that everyone who has an autoimmune condition has sort of these three factors going on, and it's kind of like the perfect storm that comes together and makes it so that this autoimmune process is sort of set off. So he found that there are three factors involved in every autoimmune condition. That is a genetic predisposition. So genetics, of course, is involved, but it also is environmental factors. We're talking about stress. We're talking about toxins. We're talking about infections. So this can be gut infections. We're talking about exposure to these, pesticides and herbicides and heavy metals, all of this stuff that we are getting exposed to. He also found that everyone who has an autoimmune condition is dealing with something called intestinal permeability, aka leaky gut. And what is happening here is there is varying factors that can contribute to leaky gut being developed, right? Everyone is going to be unique in what is contributing to their situation. So this is really where individuality comes into play, and looking at what are your specific factors contributing. But what happens is our gut is naturally semi-permeable. This allows for things like nutrients to get through to the bloodstream like they should, and it keeps things out like toxins, like microbes, bacteria, which is what we want. Now, when we have these other factors at play, whether it's gluten that we're consuming, or maybe we have a high stress life and we're kind of stuck in chronic fight or flight, maybe we have dysbiosis, which is an imbalance of good bacteria and your more pathogenic bacteria. These factors can contribute to the gut becoming more permeable, meaning that now pretty much anything can get through into the bloodstream, right? So what was before keeping those toxins and microbes out of the bloodstream are able to make it through to the bloodstream. And this sets off alarms in your body, and your body goes, these are invaders, we have to attack. And they're doing that because it wants to keep us safe, it wants to protect us.
It's protecting us, yeah.
Yeah. So this happens, and it kind of sets off this inflammatory cascade, and this is sort of the path that can lead you down the autoimmune development. So when we look at gut health, we're looking at this factor of leaky gut, right? Considering what is contributing to you developing leaky gut and addressing those things. But we also have to consider other things going on. There are so many things that we can have infections with. This was the case for myself, that I had no idea were even present until I ran a stool test, and it just, again, light bulb moment. I was like, oh, I actually feel like I am getting answers that make sense as to why this is happening in my body.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about functional lab testing, right? Is, nothing's 100%, nothing's perfect, but we can get so many answers, or at least leads, right? They may not be answers, like true answers, but leads to what is happening, what's going on. We talk about, when you were talking about the red flags, it's the body protecting us, but it's also talking to us. I always see labs like the body's talking to us on this piece of paper and going, these are the things that are going on. I need you to jump in here,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, for me, it was like a huge relief, because when you are wondering why this is happening in your body, when you're wondering, well, why is my body attacking itself? Like, your body doesn't just do that randomly, right? There is a reason for why it is doing this. And so for me to have the data in front of me and to see, like, oh, okay, I'm starting to uncover all of the things in my life that are contributing factors. And so, I had dysbiosis showing up, which that can be a trigger for autoimmunity. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
I had an infection with H. pylori. This is a bacteria that, again, a known trigger for both Hashimoto's and psoriasis. Lab high, it was through the roof.
It can be passed through
Seeing,
families. It's a
yes,
it's a tough one, because
it
it can
is.
just be passed back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, it is actually really hard to eradicate because it gets passed, like you said, so easily through
Yeah.
your saliva. So even if
Mm-hmm.
you're just like kissing your significant other and they have it, you might unintentionally be
Mm-hmm.
picking it up.
So you got to test
So
both. I mean, when something like that comes up, you're like, okay, the whole family needs to be tested because we can't just get rid of one. Mm-hmm.
yep, exactly. And even if, I think it's important to point out too, even if you aren't having the typical symptoms of this bacteria, which, acid reflux GERD is a really big one. If
Yeah.
you're not having those symptoms, you could still have it and still be exacerbating your significant other's symptoms.
Yeah.
So yeah, you absolutely have to test the whole family. And there are ways that you can support the family members that maybe aren't having symptoms but do still have lab high values of it. But yeah, I just started, and digestive dysfunction. I mean, even when we think about gut health, we also have to think about, well, are you breaking down and absorbing your nutrients? This is such a basic function that our body should be able to do. And a lot of people are struggling with this and don't have the right supports in place. And there are so many factors, again, that can influence this, like stress. We're going to see a common theme here.
Yeah. I mean,
But,
stress, just to interrupt real quick, I'm sorry, because I
no,
say this a lot, but I think it's so important just to repeat, right? This is how we learn, is through repetitiveness. That's how I learn. But we think of, often we think of stress as family stress, financial stress, work stress, right? But what is also stressful are the inflammatory conditions and inflammatory symptoms that we're dealing with. So if we have all of these outside stressors, we have these internal stressors. They again, with the perpetuation, they continue to perpetuate each other. And so the body is dealing with all of these stressors. We may not realize it, we may not feel it or think it, but it is. And stress pushes inflammation, it pushes glucose, which pushes inflammation, right? So it just is these circles and these cycles. And you can sit back, which is so interesting to me, when you're looking at a timeline for a client or a patient, and you can watch that cycle just start to get more and more and more out of control, and then you experience it when you're in the middle of it.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think too, like sometimes when you are in it, you don't notice it because maybe it's become your normal life. And so you sometimes don't even know that you're dealing with things, whether it's symptoms or stress, until you are able to kind of get yourself out of it. So it's a really tricky thing to navigate. But yes, it is, man, stress, I feel like, is one of the more challenging ones to deal with because it is so nuanced. And I also feel like you just don't necessarily recognize all the things that are contributing to that stress load.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the digestive dysfunction, I mean, going back to that just for a moment, that can lead to nutrient deficiencies, So not only are you not getting the building blocks that you need for your body just to function optimally, but nutrient deficiencies can also be a contributing factor for leaky gut, which can, again, lead to that autoimmune development process. So, a lot going on there. And when I talk about digestive dysfunction, we're talking about, are you producing enough stomach acid? Are you producing bile, which helps you, emulsify and absorb your fats? Are you producing your pancreatic enzymes, which helps you to break down your foods and get those nutrients out of your foods?
Yeah.
So.
Totally agree. And I think beyond just autoimmunity, if we are not breaking down and absorbing our nutrients, you know, things start to dysfunction, malfunction, because it's like, I don't know, I don't have what I need. So you start to think about any kind of condition that we struggle with. There are always many factors that go into the symptoms and the conditions we're struggling with. But if we are nutrient deficient, it's going to be harder for our heart to work. It's going to be harder for our kidneys to work. It's going to be harder for our brain to work. It's going to be harder for our skin to turn over. It's going to be harder for our mitochondria to produce energy, right? So we can go on and as deep as you want to go, if with just not having basic nutrients. And we have this situation where people are like, I eat a lot of great healthy organic food. I'm like, that's awesome, but are you really, right? I mean, is it actually as nutrient dense as it should be? Is it as nutrient dense as it was 100 years ago? Where are you getting it from? And are you truly breaking it down? There are so many people now who are deficient in just basic hydrochloric acid, which is going to allow the H. pylori to proliferate. It's going to allow other microorganisms to come in. It's also not going to allow for the breakdown and absorption of minerals. So then we're looking at osteopenia and osteoporosis. I mean, you literally can just take it and go on and on and on and on. And it's these basic, as you said, these building blocks, but this foundational stuff, right, for lack of a better word, that is key to everything we do.
Yes, absolutely. And you can even, I mean, like you said, you can take this one thing and you can run with it, and you can probably tie it to every single symptom situation that people are experiencing in their body. And I even just think about, with Hashimoto's, you think about even just the conversion that has to happen of T4, which is your inactive thyroid hormone, to T3, which is your active thyroid hormone. That requires nutrients like selenium. Well, if you're not getting those nutrients, you better bet your body's going to struggle with that. So
it's going to yell at you.
What's that?
And it's going to yell at you.
It is, yeah. And my body was yelling at me for 10 years before I actually took action and actually decided to say, okay, no, I need to shift what I'm doing, and I need to start addressing this through a different lens. It's hard. It's hard when you don't necessarily know where to go with that, and when you are being told by other providers that diet and lifestyle won't make a difference, that it's just your genetics, it can really impact the decisions that you make and influence them. And that was definitely the case in my situation.
Yeah. And I want to dig into that, but I want to make a couple of comments about genetics, because this is something that can be so problematic, is when we're told that it's our genetics, when it's not our genetics, it's our epigenome, right?
Yes.
And so, you had said this a little while ago too, our epigenome is what allows for genetic expression, but is controlled by our environment, by our food, by our stress, by our relationships, by our thought processes, right? It's all of these things, and when we're told it's genetic, then there is this out of control feeling, right? It's, we don't have control because it's my genetics, it's how I'm made. And it's a really terrible way of looking at it. Although I love genetics, I really, really love epigenetics. I think it's fascinating and beautiful. But what epigenetics does is it gives us the control back, right?
Yes.
So we can have the potential for autoimmune disease. I have the potential for autoimmune disease. It's all in my family, right? I've seen it in my genetics. But my hope and my prayer is I have and I continue to do all the things on a daily basis that doesn't allow for that to express, right?
Yep.
And sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I know there's a saying, and you've probably heard this, but your genes load the gun, but it's your environment and your triggers that pull the trigger. So, like you said, it's not your your genes are not your destiny.
Yeah.
And it is so unfortunate that, like you said, that we are told you can't do anything. But what is so beautiful is we can. And when you realize that, it's really exciting to be like, oh, you mean I don't have to live my life feeling awful? This is amazing.
Well, it is. And so going back to you and your story, because you are one who your genes did express multiple times, and it's a hard thing to get through, but you did get through it, and you're managing it, and you continue to manage it. So I think where I kind of want to go with this, and I want to talk about how you manage it. Also, so much to talk about. But I think I want to go kind of into a little bit of this nitty gritty about how your doctors made you feel, right? Because I'm sure you looked fine. You were a dancer, correct? Right?
Yes,
and so
I was.
you were athletic and you took care of yourself, and you know, some of your labs probably came back fine. And you know, we hear this a lot. My labs look good. You're fine. No big deal. So, you know, it's this. You look fine, so you must be fine. Or let's just try an antidepressant. And I don't know if that's your story, that piece of it, but was it?
Yeah, yes. So in terms of the antidepressant, it's funny, I did, you're going to kind of see a theme with me, but I did go to a therapist and they did put me on, oh, it was so long ago, I can't even remember which one it was, but I lasted like 2 days on that before I was like, no, this isn't for me. Like, I can figure this out. I'm going to deal with it.
Yeah. Good for you.
Very common theme that you might be picking up on.
It is, but people, when you don't know what else to do, you'll just try anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, in terms of with the doctors and sort of what was going on, you know, initially after I was diagnosed with the Hashimoto's and the Addison's disease, that was a very scary process to be going through when no one knew what was happening. And you know, I really truly felt like my body was failing me in that moment because I couldn't even stand up without just feeling like instantly I need to lay down. I was so weak. So when I got answers, I felt a huge sense of relief. I was like, oh, thank goodness I know what is going on. We can do something about this. But pretty soon after that, I realized, oh, no, we actually don't really know what's going on beyond just this diagnosis. And so when, you know, I have seen a lot of endocrinologists in my lifetime, and I definitely was getting dismissed. I would bring up my symptoms and I would be told, oh, no, those are normal with your conditions. And I'm talking, these piled on. I was experiencing really bad migraines, joint pain and inflammation at 24, waking up every morning just with my fingers aching. The exhaustion was just crushing. I would wake up in the morning and have to just drag myself out of bed to get through the day. And so I think when you go through that, it kind of makes you feel a little bit like, am I crazy? Like, they're saying my labs look good. Like, I really don't feel good. They're saying all you have to do is just take your medication. I'm taking my medication and I still feel really awful. So it was hard, but I almost feel like what was more challenging was dealing with that, but in the social environment. Like, really just wanting to live my life and not miss out on life, and having to push through the exhaustion, having to push through the pain that my body was in to be able to do that. But people weren't really understanding like why I was exhausted. Like, they didn't really get it. And I got this a lot. Oh, you have autoimmune conditions, you don't look sick. And it kind of makes you feel like, yeah. And I think from my perspective, how it made me feel was, oh, well, now I have to explain to this person why I'm so exhausted. I have to explain to this person why my fingers hurt. Like, and I'm trying to think of how to say it. It's a weird thing to go through when friends and people you know are saying these things to you, and it almost makes it feel like they don't believe you. and what you're experiencing. And that also translated into what I was experiencing with my doctors, saying I was having all these symptoms and they just kind of write you off. That's normal.
It's normal. It's
And
normal
you're
to
like,
have
but
symptoms.
is it?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's so sad.
So, yeah. So I think that the social aspect of it was almost a little more challenging for me. And so trying to figure out how to live your life as a 20-something-year-old in a new city, pursuing their dance career and wanting to, do what 25-year-olds do, and just really feeling like I want to do this, but my body is just really struggling to keep up.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like you missed out on a lot if you don't push through.
Yeah. So how did you start to manage to fix, to address things on your own? What did that look like as you're like, okay, I'm not getting help here? How did you get help?
Yeah, I got myself help. I helped myself.
Perfect.
So yeah, that's the short answer. But the longer answer is, COVID happened. I lost all my jobs from COVID, and it forced me to slow down. It forced me to be present in my body, and it forced me to really see how awful I was feeling. I got to a point where you just ignore the symptoms and you push them aside because it's kind of what you're told to do. And it becomes part of your life. And you're like, okay, this is my normal. And so when all of that kind of came crashing down, I was like, oh, wow, okay, we're not okay. What are we going to do? And so that's when I went back to school for nutritional therapy, really to figure out how I could support my body better. Also to see if it was a career path I wanted to take, which I very quickly realized it was, because I started making these changes and I saw how life-changing they were. The first thing I did was I removed gluten, which I had heard about previously, but I was like, that feels really hard and challenging, and I don't think I want to take that challenge on. And I think part of why it was so easy for me to write that off was because I didn't understand why it was important to remove gluten when you have an autoimmune condition.
It's a fad, right?
Yes. Yeah. Right. So when I finally went back to school and I understood, like, oh, this is what is happening in your body. Oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. I was very quick to be like, okay, I am gonna cut gluten out. And it actually addressed a lot of my symptoms.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
It is amazing. From that one change, it was hard, don't get me wrong. It was not an easy thing to do. I didn't want to do it. I felt like I was losing something that was really important to me. I love going out to eat with friends at restaurants, and when you have to be that person at the table that's like, oh, I'll take the salad, or whatever, it feels a little sad.
Yeah, sure.
But my joint pain and inflammation got so much better. My brain fog cleared up. My stomach pains went away.
Amazing.
I know, imagine that. My mood actually improved. I stopped experiencing the bouts of depression. I could actually feel that I was just so much more stable mentally. And I think that was almost the most surprising shift that happened, because it made me feel like, oh, okay, like there was a reason for why I was going through this, and now I get it.
I think that's such an important point, because the things, we talk enough about gluten on the show, and I'm sure you do as well, that I'm not going to go into all of the details of it, but it's inflammatory, and mental disorders are an inflammatory issue, right? And so it also bypasses the blood-brain barrier and impacts our brain. So when you get rid of something that is that inflammatory and has the ability to impact our brain so much, it so often happens that these symptoms clear up. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. And I had a moment of like, oh my gosh, I should have done this sooner,
Sure.
But you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And thank goodness I did it, and I've now been able to stick
Mm-hmm.
to it. And
Mm-hmm.
I did try bringing it back in.
Did
I'm like,
you?
let's just play with this and
Yeah.
see. And instantly I was like, okay, no, this is doing nothing good for my
Yep.
body.
Yep. Yep. But I think that that's
uh,
smart. When I'm talking to my clients and my patients, I will, because so often they'll say, I cheated. I'm like, okay, for one, I don't like the words, you're not cheating, but they'll
yeah,
say very often, if not most of the time, and I realize now why I'm not eating it. Like, that's perfect. That's what's
yep,
so important, right? Is that you
yes,
now know, you feel it, you have the connection as to the why behind it. And
yep,
I think that learning experience is so important. What I hope for is it, because some people, I can just take them back to, day one, which can be a problem as well. But it's that learning experience that is the most important thing.
yeah. And I think when the perspective shifts from,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this person is telling me to do this, to, oh, no, I want to do this because I feel better when I do
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
It really, like you said, it gives you your power back of, I have control over my health. I can
Mm-hmm.
do
Yeah.
things to make myself
Mm-hmm.
better. And it's not someone else telling you to do it. You
It's your
are making the
choice.
choice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So true.
totally.
Yeah. Okay, so what else did you do?
So another thing I did food wise was I did remove highly processed seed oils. That was
Yep.
one thing I made. I had no idea how much of
Mm-hmm.
those I was consuming.
Yeah.
When I actually realized what they were and how inflammatory they are and how they are processed, being bleached and deodorized, I was like, oh my gosh, get these out of my diet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was shocked
Yep.
at how much I was consuming. It was in everything, pretty much. Um, and so when I really got those out of my diet, my joint pain totally went away. That was like the thing
Ah,
that
those
did it.
two things. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a huge shift. But the other thing that I did was I ran a GI map stool test, which we talked about already, and that gave me so much
Mm-hmm.
information, tangible information, to start intentionally supporting my body with digestion, with addressing these
Mm-hmm.
underlying infections that are known to contribute to autoimmune
Mm-hmm.
conditions. Around the time I ran my first GI map, I was experiencing chronic daily diarrhea for 2 years. And
Oh, talk about
in
being
two
nutrient
weeks,
deficient. Yeah.
I know. It was bad, and I lost weight. It was not
Mm-hmm.
good. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
pretty tiny person, so it was
Mm-hmm.
just like scary.
Yeah.
Um, but within 2 weeks of starting those supports, it was gone.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think I think the thing with this is there are things we can do. You just have to kind of do a little digging.
Mm-hmm.
You have to figure out what your things are that are going to support your body. And this is where the work that we do as nutritional therapists is so
Mm-hmm.
important, because we really are looking at the individual and we are
Mm-hmm.
supporting you as the person. We are looking at your story. We are looking at how you move through the world, how you take on stress,
Mm-hmm.
how you navigate stress, how all these factors, and we can really create this supportive path forward and help you to minimize, reduce, even get rid of fully your symptoms. Um, so it's pretty cool work that we get to do if I say so myself.
Yeah, we're talking a few minutes ago. I was talking about your light bulbs going off, and that's probably my favorite thing about what we do is seeing the light
Mm-hmm.
bulbs and people learning. My What I tell people, my ultimate goal is for them to take what we do together on for the rest of their lives, and then be able to teach their kids and their families and all of those things, and have this ability to know how to listen to your body, but then to continue to learn more. I'm still continuing to learn how to listen to my body every day. It's I'm working on that. But that's growth, right? That's part of it. But that's what I hope for, I think, more than anything else. I do have a question for you because I'm looking at, we've got your three things that you tend to focus on that anybody should focus on when it comes to autoimmune disease and really most conditions. It's food, it's gut health, and it's stress and stored emotions. And so I'm curious, without digging into any more than you want, when you said earlier about this sadness, I'm curious if you figured that out on your own, if it was a familial sort of sadness, that epigenetic from, do you know what that's from?
I love this question, and I don't know that I totally have an answer.
Yeah.
I have always very much been prone to kind of feeling like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders.
Okay.
I would consider myself a very like empathetic person. I take on other people's emotions very easily. So this is something I've been working on myself, is how do I protect my own energy and not take other people's stressors on as my own. But that was something I always struggled with. Um, I don't have an answer. The depression really did clear up when I removed gluten.
Yeah.
That was a huge shift. I still will experience moments of just feeling like the weight of the world is on my shoulders, but it's nothing like what I experienced when I was in this deep, deep depression of just, I feel like I am in the darkest, deepest hole of my life and I don't know how to get out.
Yeah.
Like, it's trying to think of how to explain this, but you feel very alone and very isolated, and you feel like just anything to end this type of pain. And it was so weird because I'm like, my family's incredible. Like, this just does not make sense. But I think that the whole epigenetics and those stored emotions getting passed down through generations is absolutely a thing. And so I would be curious, now that you bring it up, to dig into that path and see if there was a relationship there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's an interesting and also hard to fathom concept, this generational trauma and mental and emotional experiences that will, and I mean, it's difficult, but it's not. If we go back to what epigenetics does, right? It's these locations, these SNPs that flip on, and they flip on, and that flipping on is passed on. And so this it is interesting to, and I don't even know how you would do that, if you would just talk to your family, what are the experiences. I have no idea, but and it's way outside of what I know and am good at. So but it's always that curiosity that's there. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of beyond what I do as a practitioner, but it is very fascinating to me how our bodies really hold on to emotions. And I really think that this is such an important part for anybody who is navigating autoimmune conditions, is to really look at, is there stored trauma that you're holding on to from your own experience, not necessarily digging down the path of familial members, but and then taking that time to process those, like truly process through them. And even just small things like in your daily life, like I was always the kid that kept my emotions in. I didn't want to stir the pot. I didn't want to, step on anybody's toes. And so I was never one to really express how I was feeling until it really all bubbled up and kind of came out in one big, blast. But I think this is a really key piece to the puzzle. This is a through line I see in all of my clients, whether it is your daily life stressors, which are maybe a little more easier to see and to pinpoint, but for myself, I really think it was a culmination of these small micro moments
Mm-hmm.
that I perceived as stressful throughout my life that I never processed,
Mm-hmm.
that compound over time.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just had a thought. I have had it's a sort of a fun story. So there's a friend, a girl friend who I've had on the show before. We don't know each other well. Never met her in person, right? It's all been via Zoom. But her name's Joanna Lynn. If anybody wants to check her out, because she looks at epigenetics in that familial way, right?
Cool.
I have been, from my own training, when I look at genetics, until meeting Joanna, it was this, okay, today and the future, right? And we have the ability to impact 7 generations ahead of us, and that's where I went until I met Joanna, and she is just the opposite. She's like, yes, you are 7 generations behind you, right? Is who you
Mm.
are today. And I just went, whoa. It just opened my mind up to this whole amazing convoluted piece of flesh that I am, right? So many things that come together. But that's exactly what she does, is she helps people move through those family and generational issues, traumas, things, whatever it is, to get past that and move forward. So if you want an introduction, I'm happy to introduce you. She's
Of
great. I
course.
love the way that she's just so smart, right? She's one of those
Yeah.
super smart people. So cool stuff. It was a really great show. I haven't talked to her in a long time. I should reach out to her, but
That's,
yeah.
I find this stuff so fascinating. I
It's
really
awesome.
feel like we are just scratching the surface
Oh,
with
without a
what
doubt.
we know about
Mm-hmm.
the human body, the
Mm-hmm.
human mind. Like it just, it's such a cool field to be in because I feel like we are just constantly learning more and more and more and more. And it just continues to just surprise me
Yeah.
what our bodies are capable of. And yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
good.
I would love an introduction. That would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. Of course, of course. So let's do this. We're coming up on our time, but I want to make sure that you talk about your program, anything else that you want to hit on, how people can find you, all of that stuff.
Totally. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can follow me on Instagram at Nurtured Simply. My website is nurturedsimply.com. And the first thing that I just want to throw out is I do offer a free 40-minute autoimmune support call. This is for anybody who is newly diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, or really honestly, if you are just in the thick of it and you need some support. I just wanted to create a safe space where we can connect. You can cry, you can grieve. It can really be whatever you need in that moment. And I do like to offer up some guidance and tools for them in that moment. I also do a 20-minute discovery call that's free for anybody who is looking to dive deeper into this work. This is an opportunity for us to connect and just see how I can support you on your health journey moving forward. And I do a 6-month program. So we really deep dive into all the aspects. We're not just looking at nutrition, but we're looking at your lifestyle. We touched on the stress point, but we're really looking at that. We're looking at all aspects that could be influencing your symptoms and how you're feeling. So you can find both of those at nurturedsimply.com. They're both free, and I would love to connect with anybody who needs a little support.
Awesome. I love it. I love what you're doing. Well, I love it because we are very similar, and but it's so good and it's so needed, and there is this. Um, I love I love connections like this because we are so similar, and there's so many people out there that are struggling, that need the guidance, and to be able to connect with people who, I mean, I love connecting with people who are dissimilar too, but it's really fun just to be, we talk the same language, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's a really fun thing to just sit and go, yeah, yeah, everything you say, yes.
Yeah. So true.
So anyway, I'm super grateful for what you're doing. I mean, again, with the autoimmune disease, good for you for focusing on that. Good for you for getting through it and moving through it. And I know that it's a daily management. You know, it's a part of your life to make sure that what you're doing continues your health and your healing, but also allows doesn't allow for more to come up, which can happen. And having the awareness around who you are and what you are and your hormones and all of this stuff, you know, it just makes such a big difference. And so helping people to navigate that is just so important. So it's good
Well,
stuff.
thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you so much for having me on today. This was
Mhm.
so much fun, and I just really enjoyed connecting with you.
Awesome. Me too. All right, everybody. That's it. Thanks for joining us. This is Taste Life Nutrition Radio and Podcast. We stream live here every Thursday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, where we have on amazing guests. And sometimes it's just me. I think next week it's just me. So it's you know, having people on who are here to serve and to give and to love and have been through their own junk in order to help pull people up. You know, we're pulled up so we can pull others up, and I just think it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful world, and be grateful for it. It's good stuff. So. Find me, tastelifenutrition.com and Taste Life Nutrition and all of the socials. You can go to the website. You can fill out an assessment that I'm happy to then reach out to you. We'll chat a little bit about it. If I can help, great. If I know somebody amazing like Annie, then I will refer because I think that that's what the best thing is to do. So anyway, let me know if there's anything you need. We'll see you next week, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, streaming here on KUHSdenver.com. Thanks, everybody. All right, give me 1 second. All right. Oh, hold on. I always forget to turn all my stuff off.